Well, good evening. Welcome to Wednesday night's edition of Bedtime Stories with me, Pastor Michelle. Today is Wednesday, the 5th of August. Time is moving fast, right? It's hard to believe we're already in August. I don't know where this summer went, besides nowhere. So hope you're all hanging in there. Tonight's Disney story, to begin with, is from Mickey and Friends. So let's hear it. The story is called Scrooge's Nature. Would you look at that? Huey pointed to a picture of a junior woodchuck relaxing in a hammock while another camper fished in a nearby lake. And that, Dewey's eyes widened. He pointed at a picture of a star-filled sky in the same brochure. Camping at a faraway lake sure looks fun, Louis agreed. Do you think Uncle Scrooge would pay for us to go? He might. The three boys looked at one another. Nah, they said in unison. Let's show him anyway. The other boys followed Huey into their uncle's study, and Dewey nudged Huey forward. Look at this, Uncle Scrooge, Huey said, thrusting the brochure into his uncle's lap. Uncle Scrooge scowled at the glossy photos. What have we got here, lads? It's a camp, Uncle Scrooge. It's educational. Huey stammered. Looks like a waste of my hard-earned money, the old duck said. But we could go camp out under the stars, Dewey said. And cook over a fire, Louis put in. And see nature, Huey added. Uncle Scrooge's eyes narrowed. He looked from the brochure to his nephew's hopeful faces and back to the brochure. So they wanted to learn about nature, did they? Scrooge had a plan. Here you are, boys, said Uncle Scrooge a short time later. He smiled from the safety of the screened-in back porch. You have tents, he said, pointing to the three leaky pup tents set out in the backyard, and you can see the stars. Stars, which was true, although only one or two stars were visible through the branches of the tree the tents were under. And you're cooking over a fire, Scrooge finished, pointing at the tiny smoky little flame. This is much better than that junior woodchuck nonsense, isn't it, boys? Uncle Scrooge asked with the smile of a duck who has saved himself a dime. Yes, Uncle Scrooge, Huey, Dewey, and Louie said. The boys turned back to the fire. I think, said Huey. Next time, continued Dewey. We ask Uncle Donald, finished Louie. Oh, what a fun story about someone who has a lot of money being stingy. Isn't that a lot of the issues with America? I don't know. I'm not going to talk politics. But anyway, yeah, I do hope you're doing okay. So let's continue on with this, my book, The National Geographic, and see what our Bible character is tonight. So our Bible characters tonight, we're going to hear about Abraham and Sarah. So here is a picture of Abraham and Sarah and the angel around 1520. This was painted by John Provost. And that's a picture of Sarah and the angel and Abraham. Noah's descendants spread out across the earth 9 generations after the flood, says Genesis. A man named Terah lived in a city called Ur of the Chaldeans. At the age of 70, Terah fathered 3 sons. He then took his family, including his sons and their wives, and traveled to the city of Haran in northern Mesopotamia, in what is today southern Turkey. One of these sons was an Abraham, originally named Abram, who married Sarah, who originally was Sarai. Because Sarah was barren, they adopted Lot, the son of Abraham's deceased brother. I didn't know he was adopted. Okay. While they were in Haran, God called upon Abraham and said, Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great. So Abraham obeyed and took his family to Canaan, in a region encompassing much of today's Lebanon, Israel, the Jordan River Valley, and Sinai. After Abraham built an altar in Shechem and Bethel in the northern highlands, a famine forced him to continue south to Egypt. His sojourn in Egypt made Abraham a wealthy man, with large herds of sheep, but upon his return to Canaan there was a strife among the shepherds. Abraham had no choice but to split his herds between him and his nephew Lot. Lot left for the irrigated plains of Jordan and settled in a place called Sodom. Abraham eventually settled in Hebron in today's West Bank. The separation left Abraham without an heir because Sarah was barren. The question of who would succeed Abraham became urgent. According to Mesopotamian custom, Sarah told a slave girl named Hagar to lie with Abraham so as to procure a son. She bore a son, Ishmael. When Ishmael turned 13, God reaffirmed his covenant and told Abraham to circumcise himself as well as Ishmael. a ritual that all male Jews have undergone ever since. I'm glad I'm not a guy, by the way. That was just... But then Sarah conceived as well, despite her age. I'm glad I'm not a Jewish boy. Okay, anyway. I don't know where I'm going with that one. But then Sarah conceived as well, despite her age. She bore a son named called Isaac, whom would Abraham now recognize as his heir. Ishmael could claim his right as Abraham's firstborn, but Isaac could claim greater legitimacy. Sarah demanded that Abraham cast out Hagar and her son, and her husband complied. God then decided to punish two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, for their sinful ways. Abraham's nephew Lot, however, still lived in Sodom. Abraham intervened with God to save Lot and his family. Then God rained down sulfur and fire from heaven, and both cities were destroyed. Isaac grew to become a healthy boy, but God decided to put Abraham to a test. He told Abraham to take your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains that I shall show you. With a heavy heart, Abraham complied, but just before he struck the blade to kill his son, an angel intervened. Relieved beyond words, Abraham offered a ram instead. One of the hardest stories to read in the Bible, of Abraham being asked to sacrifice his son, which is crazy. The story of the sacrifice of Isaac, known as the Akedah in Judaism, raises a question. Why would God ask a man to sacrifice his own child? One reason might be that child sacrifice was widely practiced in Syria and Canaan. Child sacrifice was also practiced in the Phoenician cult of Baal, and in the valley of Hinnom below Jerusalem. Perhaps the purpose of the story in Genesis is that Abraham's God utterly rejects such practices. And so here's a picture of the sacrifice of Isaac by Michelangelo Mercisi de Caravaggio. And so there's a picture. And then ancient Beersheba still holds dwellings from the Middle Iron Age. And there's kind of what it looks like now. I would love to go to the Middle East, or especially the Holy Land. So here's a picture. It's kind of hard to see the journey of Abraham. I know it's up. No, it's backwards. And you can barely see, but he did go on quite a journey from Ur to Canaan. And so, yeah, here's Ur way here. And then we're talking all the way here. So, yeah, it was a pretty good, right? Okay. Just looking at the map. So there you have it, folks. There are things for today. Much love to all of you, and hang in there during these times.